Hello everybody and welcome to Art+Object's latest catalogue. It's been quite a while since we have had such a fabulous selection of New Zealand applied arts, wonderful objects and a selection of modern design furniture. James and I are going to talk about some of the really fascinating pieces in this catalogue. The centrepiece is probably the finest selection of Len Castle ceramics that's ever been offered at auction in New Zealand. And we've got a little bit of a treat as well. Later on we're going to be talking to Gray Bartlett about his collection of vintage guitars. But first, James and I are going to talk about some of the pieces in the catalogue. Everything in the catalogue, there's 350 lots, are going to auction this coming Thursday, May the 24th at 6:30 p.m. The catalogue is online, of course, and we look forward to seeing you this coming Thursday.
As Hamish mentioned in the introduction, we are very privileged in this auction to be offering a large selection of Len Castle pieces. We have pieces that date from the early 50s, ranging right through to the end of Len's career, with a couple of sulphur bowls as well. So to begin with, I'd like to talk about one of these early pieces of Len Castle's work that we have in the sale. This little, quite humble but quite significant slip decorated dish, which is from the early 1950s. And we can see in this dish the Japanese influence that inspired Len Castle. We have the decoration on the surface is influenced by the Japanese Seto horse-eye plates. Also influenced by the Japanese pottery tradition are these wonderful Len Castle bottle vases. And we have 3 of these in the sale. And you can see with this work they're very influenced by Shoji Hamada. One of the things that should be said about Len Castle's practice though, although he was influenced by the Anglo-Oriental tradition, as were so many New Zealand potters in the 60s and 70s, his work also breaks out of that tradition, and it breaks out of that tradition quite early. And we see that in pieces like the big discoid vases, and we see it in the hanging forms. And we are privileged in this sale to have 3 hanging forms, 1 bottle and the 2 other hanging forms, and they are very distinctive Len Castle pieces. Nothing is more distinctive, though, I think, of Len Castle's work than the volcanic series that was begun, I think, around 1991. And what we see with these pieces is this wonderful amalgam, I think, of very fine potting with quite rugged forms, and then combined with these very rich, lustrous glazes. So we see that in this rich red of these crater bowls, and we see that in the lovely pooling blue of the alkaline crater bowl as well. And then to round out the Len Castle offering, we have a couple of the sulphurous bowls, 2 sulphurous bowls. These were made at the very end of Len Castle's career. They were made in collaboration with Graham Ambrose, and you can see this again, this wonderful effect with the glaze on the surface, this lovely crackling effect on the surface. So 2 sulphur bowls round out what is a very large offering of Len Castle's work.
This is Pacific Cross by Chris Charteris, and Chris is a really interesting artist and works in natural materials, whalebone, panamo, all sorts of different stones that he travels all around New Zealand to locate. This is a very hefty piece of basalt. It's a work from 2005. If you look closely at the hatching and the work in this particular piece, you see echoes of Polynesian carving and image making, and these all form part of the conceptual base of Chris Charteris' work.
Another good collection that we have in the sale is a collection of pieces that were made by Teo Schoon. These pieces were made by Teo Schoon and were given to a very close friend of his, Mary Lever. The collection has been consigned by a member of Mary Lever's family. Interesting to look at this collection, we see pieces in the collection which are very traditional, like this Inanga Pounamu Heitiki, and then going across the collection we see this interest of Teo Schoon's, this interest in modernism, with some of the tikis having just slight changes to them. And then we get to the end piece, or probably one of the most important pieces, I guess, in this collection, is this very modernist Pounamu pendant. So rendered in Kawakawa Pounamu, we can still see a tiki form in the piece, but it has been completely modernised. And of course this was a central concern of Teo Schoon's practice. So included in the sale, besides the applied art, we have a very good offering of mid-century furniture, of modern design furniture, both New Zealand pieces and international pieces. The signature pieces by Finn Yule, by Joe Colombo, by Mies van der Rohe, and then some very, very good New Zealand pieces. And I'm sitting beside one of these pieces now. In this sale we're offering 5 Michael Payne designed expo chairs. These were designed for the 1970 Expo in Osaka, Japan. And the nice thing about this group of chairs is that they come to us in absolutely original condition. So with this lovely patinaed black leather, still lots of wear on that black leather, and the shells are in very, very, very good condition too. Another important collection that's been consigned for this sale is a collection of Sherwood and Tan pottery. This collection begins with the very first piece that Cam Brown ever made. So with the Sherwood mark on the base, it's a wee character jug, and this is, I guess, the prototype for the entire Sherwood and Tan pottery business. One of those things that I think is forgotten about nowadays is just how important the Tan factory was. The Tan factory in the 50s and 60s and 70s, until they were bought by Crown in 1970, were employing about 50 staff, up to 50 staff, and exporting internationally. And one of the things that Cam Brown and his wife Dorothy were doing is they were interested in production pieces, but also art pottery pieces. So we see from the Tan factory some very unique pieces being produced as well. Like this piece here, which is a collaborative work designed by Cam Brown and worked with Sonia Pistopal. We see this also with these fairly unique little whimsical jugs from the 1950s. And these pieces were produced in very, very low numbers, and I think very, very interesting pieces that have never been seen before on the auction market.
It's not very often at Art and Object that we have a guest star on some of our video pieces, but I'm very pleased to introduce to you, many of you will know Gray Bartlett, very much a legend in New Zealand music, and in this catalogue we have got 3 guitars from Gray's collection, all of which have seen action in the field, haven't they, Gray? Been used on records and in concerts around the world. And we're going to talk about first a really interesting guitar. Is it the first Ovation guitar to come into New Zealand? Can you tell us a little bit about this beautiful guitar, Gray?
Oh, well, indeed. And this particular Ovation, which is a special classic series, we purchased the first 6 guitars from our company, Gun Industries, that we imported with the American agents and manufacturers. And this was one of the very first we opened. I've played many, many Ovations right up till this year now, 2012. And there's something about the original manufacture and design and carefulness that was put into the construction of this instrument that sets it apart from any that's ever been produced ever since.
Sure, and what is it about the Ovation that's different? Obviously it's a different shape from a normal guitar. What's the difference in the sound? Why did they become so popular?
Well, they were formed by a company that did all the original space research for NASA.
Okay.
And the back is made of what is called a lyre cord. And there was many copies done. People tried to copy it, but of course you can't copy a product like that, which is ultra thin but immensely strong. And so the resonating qualities of the bowl are what caused everyone, all the major stars, to use them.
And where have you played this guitar around the world?
I've played this in so many recordings. I've had it right through Europe, I've played it in America, I've played it in Australia heaps of times, done lots of shows in China and Asia, I've done on television, I've recorded with all the major stars with it, I've been on stage with them with it, I've done feature spots with it, with the orchestras and New Zealand Symphony and everything. It's featured on the cover of a lot of my albums, so it's all there.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, another guitar which is from the mid-1960s, from 1965, is this Kono guitar.
Yes.
This is a handmade guitar by a master luthier, as they're called. Can you tell us a little bit about this lovely and really quite rare guitar?
This is a precious guitar, I've got to tell you. Mr. Kono passed away 20 or 30 years ago. He didn't make any more of these. This is handmade by Mr. Kono, and it's one of the originals. It has just a magnificent tone. I used this on my biggest ever selling recording, which was called La Playa, which was released in Japan, went to #2 on the national Billboard charts over there. This is the exact guitar that I used for the recording at Stepping Studio. I then took it with me to tour the whole of the world with Rolf Harris, when I was his MD, right through everywhere. I did 7 years with Rolf, and this guitar was the guitar I used. It's got such a history, just to look at it, and if it could talk. If it could talk.
It's been around the world a few times.
It had. It's just a beautiful, and the tone today it's unequal.
Well, they're lovely to look at, Gray, but what we're really hoping is you might be able to play us a tune or two.
I'll grab the Ovation. And I'll tune it up.
That's lovely, great.
Notes?
Thank you very much indeed. Well, all of the guitars from Gray's collection, I know it was quite hard for him to part with just 3, but as you've heard, they've got wonderful history. They're not museum pieces, they've lived an active life, and we really urge you to come down and have a look at them over the next few days before the auction.